Okay, here's what's going to happen today. Today, we are going to discover or rediscover or otherwise fall in love with the best breakup song in the English language ever, period. And I'm going to dare you to challenge that. We're also going to talk about COVID 19 and other things that are somewhat important. But today, we have to discover the most beautiful breakup song in the English language, and I will explain why later. And you're gonna love me for it. And if you don't like it, I'll buy you coffee. You don't have to buy me coffee. That was weird, I know, but I just been yeah about things that I want to share with you today because it's Canada Day. Happy Canada Day to those of you that celebrate Canada Day. And happy Wednesday, happy hump day in what Earl Squires Sandoval eloquently calls the best little city in the world. Here we are in Puerto Vallarta getting ready for coffee and headlines like every morning live at 10:30 with news, ideas, stories that affect our lives here in Puerto Vallarta, with wonderful company, with all the wonderful comments and suggestions that you bring forth every single day. What a better place to be. Is there a better place to be? Nope. And here we are. So if you are new and confused and you're thinking, what is this guy talking about? Just stick around. It'll make sense at the end. My name is Paco. And if you write the word new in the comment section, we will welcome you accordingly. And if you let us know where you're from and how you found out about coffee and headlines. And if you find something useful and inspiring along the way, I will ask for you to consider buying us a coffee and we'll explain all of that good stuff. In a little while, I should remember to breathe. But that's it. I am excited about today because it's a good day. It's a good day to talk about wonderful things. So I might as well get started because I'm not making any sense. This is what happens when I wake up in a particularly hyper mode. So let us get started with some recent news. Yes, let's go into the news and let's take a quick look at. Okay, check it out. Let me just share this with you. Canada Day party at Kelly's Por Favor Whiskey Put. I can't pronounce that. I don't know if it rhymes with Clementine or with something else. Poutine. Can somebody explain what that means, please? It's a new word for me, or I can Google it later. Anyhow, here we go. Let us get started with some news. We see that we begin summer with 54 hotels that have reopened. All of these hotels are working with the maximum percentage allowed, which is 25%. This is 57 hotels out of 200 hotels that are located in Puerto Vallarta. We understand or we believe that some of these hotels have reopened because they're catering primarily to a national clientele, whereas there might be other hotels that are more focused on international tourism, and we will expect them to open later on. We also find out that this past weekend we had a 12% occupation in hotels, which continues to be well under the expected or allowed maximums right now. I know that this is going to be a slow recovery for many, but it is good to see that there's some movement going on in the tourism industry here in Puerto Vallarta. Being at the beach the other day, having lunch, there's so many vendors that are trying to sell things, and it feels somewhat challenging not to be able to support everyone, but everybody out there is going out there with the best intention to try to move forward through this crisis. More numbers, the kind of numbers that we like. 6 out of 10 people with COVID-19 in Mexico have recovered. This is excellent news. While there are so many news outlets that continue to thrive on letting us know how the number of cases has increased, and I know that it is an important number, it is also important, I think, to be mindful of the fact that people do recover from COVID-19. People do continue on with their lives. And this is, of course, good news for everyone. We also find out that Mexico's President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador and Donald Trump will have a meeting on the 8th of July, on July 8th, at the White House, followed by a second meeting on the following day, on July 9. And the meetings will have to do with the free trade agreement, which is being renegotiated between the United States, Canada, and Mexico. So we will have to see exactly what goes on with that meeting. We'll follow it closely. I know from what I've read that Mexican President Lopez Obrador does not want to turn this into a campaign thing for him or for Trump. President Trump might see it differently. We'll have to see what goes on with that. And Putin, oh dear, I think I said a bad word without, well, it's French fries with cheese and gravy. That sounds delicious, actually. But I don't know what it rhymes with, so I'm not going to say that word out loud yet until I have chance to read all your comments to that effect. A lot of times I have a lot of fun reading your comments. Squeaky cheese. Okay, so this is going to be one of those days in which I'm going to have a good time reading your comments. I'll be happy if I can get a hold of my panela cheese. I had my friend Paul bring me some from El Tuito the other day, and it's sitting on his in his refrigerator, not on it, but in it. Anyhow, we're going to smoothly shift over to leisurely news because there's a lot of leisurely news, including my TV. Did it get fixed? Well, the answer is coming up. But first, let's take a quick look at the weather. It is 83 degrees, although it feels like 93 right now. Humidity is high, up to 82%. There is a 9% chance of precipitation right now, and I know that we're going to be expecting showers and thunder showers later on in the day. Snarky Carrot Weather says, I heard your local TV weatherman has a secret second family 2 towns over. I don't even know that we have a local TV weatherman because I don't even know that we have a local TV station. I think there is one, but I've never really watched it myself. Anyhow, you ask about my television set. My television set is still ailing. And here's what went on yesterday. I waited for the technicians, and the very nice technicians from Electrónica Integral came and took care of my television. They disassembled it and looked at it and so forth and so on. And I came to realize that what is wrong with it is the fact that the motherboard is busted. And the motherboard being busted means that I cannot have it fixed because LG, the television brand, doesn't make that particular motherboard anymore. So the technician said to me, we think we might have found a used one, and give us some money and we'll get it into Puerto Vallarta in a few days and we'll install it. And I gave them a down payment. And then later on in the afternoon, they were quick to call me and let me know that they thought they had gotten a hold of this particular piece of equipment, but it is nowhere to be found. So they're going to refund me my down payment. The whole repair cost would have been something along the lines of 3,000 pesos, which is much less than what I would have to pay to get a brand new television set of that size. When the technicians got in touch with me yesterday afternoon, they gave me the specific part number that my television needs in case I'm able to find it somewhere. I did some Googling of it, and I might be able to get a used one or refurbished one from the United States. I don't know yet. So the short story of this is that my television is dead, or at least temporarily. But the good news is that I can wholeheartedly recommend Electrónica Integral, which is the service that came to see me. They showed up on schedule at my house. They showed up with face masks. They were extremely polite. through the whole thing. And I know that a couple of people had mentioned this particular repair service to me. So even though they could not give me the desired outcome, I still wish to recommend them because they they delivered on their promise as best as they could. And I will leave you with the particulars for them at the end of the show. Um, I also want to let you know that for those of you that are bar owners and have been waiting for some kind of news, um, well, we are now at a point in which the opening of bars is going to be considered. There is not going to be a specific date yet, but Governor Alfaro has announced that his analysis team, which of course we know includes economists and medical scientists and so forth and so on, are going to look at the possibility of reopening bars and what kind of protocols are going to be needed to be able to do this. At the same time, he changed his mind. The governor changed his mind about movie theaters. We had announced that he had announced that movie theaters were to open again, but there were some concerns on behalf of the science board from the University of Guadalajara, and lo and behold, the governor has had a change of heart, and theaters and cinemas are not to open just yet. We also found out today that the mayor of Puerto Vallarta, Mayor Davalos, was in Boca de Tomatlan to deliver this brand new suspension bridge that has been completed over the Orcones River. This had been destroyed by a storm called Narda. I think that was last year or the year before. I don't remember. But it is a beautiful bridge for anybody that is wanting to hike from Boca to Las Animas. You can now experience this brand new suspension bridge. We'll want to take a drive down there as soon as possible just to see what it looks like up close. Um, Meanwhile, while the reopening of theaters and concert halls is yet to be decided, there is a flurry of virtual concerts that is starting to show up in Mexico's events schedules. And whereas we're talking about a lot of artists you may not have heard, such as Alejandra Guzman, who's a major rock star in Mexico. Julieta Venegas is another really wonderful singer. What is interesting here is that all these established artists are increasingly moving to platforms in which they are able to charge money for these concerts. Clearly, the trend is becoming one in which artists have been willing and able to share their talent with the expectation that you would hopefully tip them or otherwise contribute to their fund. But now more and more platforms are appearing that are going to allow for these concerts to take place. Whether these platforms can guarantee the quality that we're going to get in our TV sets or our disposable, our portable devices, not disposable, that remains to be seen. I looked, for example, at this particular concert. Well, it's actually some kind of theater performance that Mexican singer Julieta Venegas is doing, and the prices were not bad. The prices for the ticket to watch this from home were something like 150 pesos, which is a lot less than what we pay to go see live performances here in town for the most part. So we will see how these offerings develop, and we will, of course, also see how local artists continue to move in this particular direction, whether we are comfortable paying upfront for these kinds of performances or not. And speaking of live performances, I have an interesting performance to share with you. Um, these photos show a concert played for nearly 2,300 plants, and this is absolutely true. Leave it to the Spanish, particularly those in Barcelona, which is such an innovative city. The Gran Teatre del Liceu in Barcelona streamed a string quartet concert in which they placed 2,292 plants to fill every seat in the house. And this is what the theater looked like. Check it out. It's a full house and it's full of plants. How crazy wonderful is this? So the concert was performed, and then the plants were delivered to a number of hospitals so that they could be shared among people and hospital workers and whatnot. The performers played a piece by Giacomo Puccini, and the entire concert lasted, or at least the part that you can watch on YouTube lasted less than 10 minutes. And of course, I'm going to share the link with you so that you can enjoy um, your 5 to 10 minutes with a bunch of plants in a movie theater. What do you know? Then I found this great article about 5 minutes that will make you love Mozart from the New York Times. And what the New York Times did here is they asked a bunch of people from all walks of life. I mean, look at the names at the beginning. Mark Hamill, whom we know from the Star Wars movies, Condoleezza Rice, and Mitsuko Uchida, the famous Mozart interpreter, pianist. Um, and they were asked what their favorite Mozart pieces are, and the descriptions that all these people come up with are so incredibly delicious um, in terms of the specific pieces of music that they suggested. That I'm going to leave this article for you to read. And if you don't come out of this article with at least one more new piece of Mozart that you haven't heard before, then then I don't know. Between the Mozart and the breakup song that I'm going to announce in a little while, I certainly hope you're going to have a musically rich day today. This is also something that came to my mind a couple of days ago when Cirque du Soleil announced bankruptcy. It makes us wonder what is going to happen with that huge mega development that Vidanta is building just north of the border with the state of Nayarit, which is a joint project between Vidanta and Cirque du Soleil. But of course, Cirque du Soleil has gone on to bankruptcy. They have fired 90% of their employees, which is about 4,679 employees around the world. They've canceled 44 shows in different countries. And it is expected that they have a debt of 20,000 million pesos. That's a lot of dollars. I don't know exactly how many, but to this date, we don't know exactly how advanced is the Vedanta work and what's going to happen with it. So we are going to have to wait and see what happens with this. Boom, 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 boom. Let me take a quick look at your comments before we move into the nitty gritty of today. Let's see. Lots of stuff about the P word that I cannot pronounce. I'm not ready to say rest in peace on my television, Karen. You know what bumps me out the most? What bumps me out the most is that we go out and spend money on these things, and then they become absolutely useless. I mean, the company that makes it doesn't make the replacement piece anymore. So as consumers, we're expected to go out and spend money on these ginormous pieces of metal and plastic that then end up in landfills. It just bums me out. Um, Disposable TVs. I like that comment. Um, this is a very, very interesting comment, Paul. I think it will be absolutely interesting to see what's going to happen here because, and this is something that has always been a, of interest to me, and I've been criticized about it because it has to do with the quality of what we pay to go see live, and the prices that we pay to go see live certain things, and what is the correlation between quality and whether it is worth it. We're going to have to wait and see just to see how much people are interested in continuing to pay for these events. Um, I'm so very glad you guys enjoyed the plant photographs. I thought it was absolutely wonderful. Um, and I'm going to move into my last bit of news today, but not without acknowledging the wonderful series of recommendations that you shared with me yesterday, in terms of pieces of music, books, or films that have moved you recently. I had every intention to dive into them today, but I have found out that we've lost a great musician, and I feel it absolutely necessary to acknowledge the passing of Johnny Mandel, who was one of the most incredible arrangers and composers in the world of popular music in the United States. Now, think about this for a second. If you walk down the Malecon, there are those people that build sculptures with rocks. And I know there's all kinds of artists out there, but it takes a very special skill set for someone to be able to take those big boulders and balance them on top of one another, and they just sort of stand there still for us to tip and for us to acknowledge. Well, that was Johnny Mandel whenever he had to orchestrate or arrange music for orchestra. Johnny Mandel was known for many things, and we'll get into some of them. But the way Johnny Mandel orchestrated a string section has absolutely, oh my God, and I can't believe my very, very dear friend Earl is listening to me say these words, because it is with you, my dear, dear friend, that we discovered this music together. And this is something that, oh my God, will always stay with me. Um, uh, I'm sorry. This I get emotional because it's so nice to touch base with new friends and friends from the past about beautiful music. Um, so very sorry. Johnny Mandel rose to fame, being a composer, um, and being a songwriter. He was not a lyricist, though. He was a melodist, and being a good melodist takes so much challenge, because when you think of it, in Western music, we only have 12 notes to play with. And Johnny Mandel knew how to place one in front of the other and create the most amazing melodies. And sometimes his challenges had to be really quirky. For example, film director Robert Altman charged him with a film score for a comedy film and a subsequent TV series called MASH. And for MASH, the director said to him, I have two requests. The main song has to be called Suicide is Painless, and the music has to be the stupidest song ever written, period. And director Robert Altman gave it a crack at the lyrics, and he couldn't come up with anything that was stupid. And it was his son, who was 15 or 16 at the time, who came up with the lyrics for Suicide is Painless. Now, do you want to be remembered for a song called Suicide is Painless? Well, probably not. But this was one of the first big hits that Johnny Mandel wrote in collaboration with other lyricists. Another great song of his comes to mind, "The Shadow of Your Smile." You'd have to be very, very young to never have heard "The Shadow of Your Smile." It is one of those songs that is absolutely timeless. But probably my most favorite ever song of his, and I am so glad, in a selfish way, that my dear friend Earl is watching and listening to this, because we're connected by this music in many ways. My favorite collaboration by Johnny Mandel is what I mentioned earlier, the best breakup song in the English language, period. And I dare you to find me a better breakup song than a song he co-wrote with the Bergmans, with Marilyn and oh my goodness, Alan Bergman, called "Where Do You Start." "Where Do You Start" is a song that was recorded by Michael Feinstein in 1988 for his album, his CD, "Isn't It Romantic?" But then it was re-recorded by the incredible Shirley Horn in her album from 1992, "Here's to Life," and it was Johnny Mandel who arranged the album. And oh my God, his arrangements are just as beautiful and have the finesse of these artists that are at by the Malecon, just putting rocks on top of one another. It is precise, it is gorgeous, and I am going to read you the lyrics for this song, and I'm going to again encourage you and challenge you to find me a more beautiful breakup song in the English language. And "Where Do You Start" the lyrics go like this. "Where do you start? How do you separate the present from the past? How do you deal with all the things you thought would last that didn't last? With bits of memory scattered here and there, I look around and don't know where to start. Which books are yours? Which tapes and dreams belong to you and which are mine? Our lives are tangled like the branches of a vine that intertwine so many habits that we'll have to break, and yesterdays we'll have to take apart. One day there'll be a song or something in the air again to catch me by surprise, and you'll be there again, a moment in what might have been. Where do you start? Do you allow yourself a little time to cry? Or do you close your eyes and kiss it all goodbye? I guess you try. And though I don't know where and don't know when, I'll find myself in love again. I promise there will always be a little place no one will see, a tiny part within my heart that stays in love with you. Goosebumps. Goosebumps. Find me a song as beautiful as this. And if you don't know this song, I will leave you with the link to Shirley Horn's version of this song, which is beautiful on its own. And I'm going to tell you why. I know Tony Bennett recorded it, Barbara Streisand recorded it, but Shirley Horn is the most amazing jazz piano player. And think about this for a second, okay? So you have to play the piano two hands, okay? Coordination, two hands. And then you have to sing at the same time that you're playing two hands, you know? Well, if it's classical music or music that is notated, well, your hands are playing what you're reading, and you're singing. So that's three things going on at the same time. But what if you're a jazz piano player and you're singing at the same time? Your fingers are improvising. They're working completely independently from one another, and you're singing on top of them. It's a bitch to be able to do this. It is difficult. And there are just a handful of piano players who can think and feel what they're singing separate from what their fingers are playing, like Shirley Horn. Shirley Horn, jazz piano player, the late jazz piano player. That's all I can tell you about this. If I have bored you for the last 10 minutes because it took me this long to get you here, I apologize, but Johnny Mandel left, and he is a musical force to be reckoned with, and his music is simply something that I wish you will take some time in your lives to explore. For all dear friends of mine that are near and far, for you, Earl, who have been such a close musical friend through so much of my adult life, I am thinking of you and I am thinking of all of you. And I am forever grateful for all the music that you share with me and all the thoughts and ideas and books and movies and just things that move you. And and that's it. I think that's a good place to stop today. We had all kinds of music to share and some news to share, and and I hope that once we're done with today, I will put together this show notes very quickly, send you on your merry way, and really explore where do you start. Explore the whole Shirley Horn album. It is just such an intimate conversation between the way she plays and her jazz quartet plays, and then the beautiful um, cushion of wonderful musical color that Johnny Mandel as an arranger puts around her. It must be kind of like falling back on a bed that has got to have the most plush, comfortable mattress, and you're letting yourself fall back, and it doesn't matter, it's going to be wonderful, comfortable, and delicious. So that's my feeling about this album, and i am going I am going to stop there because I'm getting all emotional. Please have a wonderful hump day. Have a wonderful Johnny Mandel day. Earl, I'm thinking of you. I'm thinking of you, Gary, as well. Wonderful friends from my musical present and past. And that's it. That's it. I hope you had a good day today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. And I will come back to you tomorrow with all kinds of colorful news. And as always, thank you very much for sticking around and for sharing your thoughts, comments, suggestions. Yesterday, I got an important question on my personal um, inbox about how do we make reports of businesses that are not opening properly, and how do we report human right infractions in the state of Jalisco. I am working on this, and I will have more feedback for you on this tomorrow. So stay healthy, stay happy, stay sane, stay creative, stay kind, and I will see you soon.